If you're asking yourself, with just a couple of days for the news to settle fully in now, how could this happen? How can citizens in almost half of the country we live in a different reality than the rest of us? The answer to some of those questions, as it is for so many things, is politics and the real world impact on bodily autonomy. And it's more about than just control of empty cradles. Polling shows that a majority of Americans support abortion rights, but Republicans have figured out how to win with minority opinions. So many of the problems we highlight play into that. As the New York Times reminds us, the red wave in 2010 shifted state houses to the Republican Party and Tea Party-backed candidates who brought a new level of conservatism opposing abortion rights. When state legislators shifted to the right in a census year, that opened the door to redistricting, which makes it a whole lot easier for a minority opinion to win. It's hard to get elected these days as a moderate Republican, so abortion has become just another issue that fractures the party line. The Supreme Court is just another arena for partisan combat. Then what's the way forward? Can the other branches of our government provide fixes for the problems? Joining us now to discuss, Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, Democrat from Massachusetts and chair of the Pro-Choice Caucus, Abortion Rights and Access Task Force, also is the lead co-sponsor of the Women's Health Protection Act to guarantee equal access to abortion care across America. And Congresswoman, first of all, it's great to see you, even though the news is sobering.
Indeed, and it's always good to be with you, Zerlina. We have been together at some of the darkest inflection points in this country, and I'm pleased to join you again today.
So, Congressman, what do you think can be done on the federal level to protect women and people who can get pregnant?
Let's start there. People who get pregnant and patients seeking abortion care, due to the ignorance of many and the far-right extremism and imbalance of the Supreme Court, people making decisions, ironically on the heels of Juneteenth, where we celebrated emancipation and freedom for my enslaved ancestors, those that are seeking to roll back the hands of time and to roll over the freedom and the bodily autonomy that we have over our bodies. 1 in 4 women have had an abortion. Those are women in your family, women you work with, you worship with, and we should have the right to determine when or if to start a family. But also, abortion care is health care. This must be a health care choice that remains viable for those in the wake of an ectopic pregnancy or after a miscarriage, or those who've been diagnosed with cancer and cannot proceed forward with treatment without having an abortion. So this is a matter of bodily autonomy, of reproductive freedom, and of health care. Abortion care is health care. What can we do? President Biden should declare a public health emergency. This is something that myself and a number of my sister colleagues in the Congressional Black Caucus led a letter on in advance of this draft ruling becoming a permanent one, that we should have a whole of government approach. And if President Biden does declare a public health emergency, then that will give him the flexibility and additional resources to confront it exactly as that. The fact that this is something that impacts more than 50% of the population, and this is quite literally a matter of life and death, because we know that these bans don't mean that people, those in need of abortion or seeking this health care, will not stop seeking it. They just will not do it safely or legally. And when you consider the fact that Black women are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth, and that we are looking at a reality, a new world of forced birth for birthing people in a country that does not have universal child care, paid leave, on the heels of a baby formula shortage and a Black maternal morbidity crisis. There are projections that this could increase the Black maternal morbidity crisis by 33%. That means more Black women dying. That this could increase the general maternal mortality crisis by some 21%. So this is a matter of life and death. And it was a gut punch, although I certainly understand it, Zerlina. This is feels like an incredible betrayal because it goes against the will of majority of Americans. We feel great sadness and fear. But the emotion that I'm the most concerned about, and I know it is a protective response, is the words of many of the young women that I've spoken to who are really displaying detached acceptance and resignation at this. And we can't have that because this is a frightening bellwether, I fear, a precedent by the extremism of the Supreme Court that strikes at privacy and every other human right. And so in this moment, we need to, President Biden should declare a public health emergency. The Senate should abolish the filibuster and pass the Women's Health Protection Act. We need state legislatures and governors in those states that are safe havens, like the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, to infuse robust funding to ensure reproductive access to all those that will come to those states that are safe havens, seeking abortion care, seeking health care. We need people to support grassroots abortion funds so that if people are in need of care, they're able to access those abortion funds for travel needs and the like to get to those safe haven states. And then finally, Zerlina, I believe that we need to expand the court. We need to restore integrity, fairness, and balance to this court, which has obstructed the will of the people on voting rights, on housing rights, and now on reproductive freedom and bodily autonomy. And in that dissent, made it clear that gay marriage and other rights could also be on the horizon. And so in that vein, I would also add, with President Biden declaring a public health emergency and using the full weight of his presidency, we have to make sure that we do not see a similar fate of medication abortion and over-the-counter contraception. So we have to continue to protect and expand access to medication abortion and to over-the-counter birth control, and ensure that we protect providers and patients from criminalization. So, Lena, here in Massachusetts, we had a Black doctor, Dr. Ken Edelin, who was convicted of manslaughter in the 1970s for performing abortions. And it is outrageous that we could be returning to such a day. So we have to protect those providers along with patients.
Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, a public health emergency. I think that is a really clear message to the Biden administration about what can be done. It's always great to see you. It's unfortunate that we had to talk about this, but I think that we're all joining hands in the fight to protect bodily autonomy for all humans living in America right now. Thank you so much again. Please stay safe.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Zerlina Maxwell. Thanks for checking out our channel on YouTube. You can see more from Zerlina by clicking any of the videos on this screen, and make sure you subscribe below to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. Thanks for watching.